Yes, hello everybody. So to another session of the XStepCafe. As almost usual, the session is started by my colleague Uwe Dittes, who has prepared some wonderful stuff, and I'll hand over to him right now. All yours, Uwe.
Yeah, hi. First of all, you may have heard that one of the co-founders from SAP has died yesterday, Klaus Tschira. And so we might remember him. He was a very good guy, and we hope that we can continue the work he initiated. Okay, now to something completely different. Here the session is named Intersession Eventing. And what you see here right now, the first slide of the picture, the background picture of the slide, is a typical German summer season. When the sun is shining in the near of the Rhine Valley, and if you might know why the Germans don't have not such a good sense of humor, if you see the weather conditions here. Okay, this was my contribution to the 1st of April. Now to something which is a little bit more technical. The main topic of this session is dealing with the exchange of events, mainly in PBP-IPMA applications. And the first introduction is that various of those applications that you use in the PBPI process management area already exchange events. On the one hand, you might be familiar, you might use it also if you use execution steps. You use the so-called manufacturing data access, MDA, to broadcast values and to read and write OPC data points and tags and similar things. And also, and perhaps you also do have an implementation where you integrate a weighing system, also mean the external data source, to the PI sheet or the process manufacturing environment. And here you also will surely be using the MDA as a technique without really caring about it. Now, what's the intersession event? If you want to exchange events and data across different applications, across different user sessions, then you need a kind of a framework. And this framework that the MDA, the Manufacturing Data Access, uses is called Intersession Event, ISE. And this is really pretty old stuff. Was first introduced in times where SAP labeled their ERP product R3. Extension 2, and also the execution steps came into light, and since then this technique is used. And what the manufacturing data access uses as are so-called services for different applications in SAP standard. And what's also not that well known is that you can define your own MDA services with the help of this body interface. Short look to the MDA services. These MDA services are used when you exchange data, when you register for events, and you want to receive events in your application, and also when you raise events. Some of, let's say, those that are shipped with the SAP standard are closely related to the applications. You see here also for PI sheets, there's an MDA service called PSH for the process manufacturing cockpits. The PMC service is used, and also the connection to external data sources is handled with the ODA service of the manufacturing data access. And in former times you use the OPC, the ODA connector. Nowadays you should use sub-PICO plant connectivity to also exchange data with process control system or SCADA systems. And perhaps you might also have used the automatic generation of process messages. This is also possible because the triggering of the automatic creation of process messages uses this MDA service MSG, which then triggers the creation of a process message, which is then sent to the process message destinations or to the SAP alert framework. So you might recognize there are a lot of things that are down below, working and processing browser-based PR sheets and cockpits. This is quite, let's say, the technical stuff behind it. Why are we talking about the exchange of events? There are some challenges. In the past, and also, let's say, in the last years, we had some customers that reported problems with the stability and performance. What they observed was that sometimes they got a really high workload peak, and the cause of this high workload peaks was the ISE framework. We had, a couple of weeks ago, one really critical situation, one customer who is not using an PBPI PMA application, but he uses the intersession eventing, which was also a surprise for us because we thought that nobody outside the PBPI area would use this framework, but there was one, or at least a handful of applications that use it, and they use it with a high load of data exchange with event processing, and this had some consequences. And so the problems that they face, we never had in the PMA area for those applications that use ISE, but it was really severe and uncomfortable situation at the customer side. What sometimes also comes up, depending on how you use the MDA functionalities, if you use broadcasting events, if you raise a couple of events, then it might occur that you get short dumps. This is not the regular case, but we also had some customers who complained about this. And what also came up to our desk is that some customers wonder why there was a seems to be a permanent blocking of a work process by an RFC function module that's related to the ISE framework. And as they had a closer look, it seems for them that this function module is executed in the endless loop, and they really don't understand why this is the case. So this has some consequences. One consequence was, at least when we, let's say, were facing the severe problem the customer had, especially from the non-PBPI PMA area, that we had to really renovate the ISE framework. And we did this renovation, or this, let's say, stabilization with SAP notes. You will see later on they are added to the slides, and we also will attach the slides to the XStepCafe session. This renovation really increased the performance. It dramatically reduces let's say, the workload that the system has to cope with. And it was also a very good example from customer feedback. We got feedback from one customer who had the problems with the ISE framework. They had a really good idea how to solve some of the problems. We took up this example and we refined it, and we did additional, let's say, fine-tuning to stabilize and also to better the performance of the ISE eventing. Also, one consequence is a little bit more technical insight in the ISE framework, and therefore I want also to share some of the information, some of the basic ideas behind that, so that you are not that surprised if you see, let's say, perhaps the function module that was named a couple of seconds ago in the workload monitoring of the system. I will not go too much into technical details, but describe the basics that are behind the ISE, the intersession eventing. Okay. If you talk about intersession events, there are some basic processes. What you see here on the slide is a picture that shows an application server where your application is running. Imagine it could be a cockpit or a browser-based PR sheet. And it could also be that you have two different users that are logged into the application server. You have two user sessions, and also two different role areas. Here the dotted line is the border between the user sessions. We have the same application, and the idea is how can the session of user A, the application that's run in here, exchange arrays or receive events from user B and so forth. And the first thing that's important if we talk about MDA and also the intersession eventing is that the application has to be up and running. So the complete technique won't work if one application that has registered for receiving events is down, is not up to date. What's now happening here? In our example, the application of user B wants to register for ISE events. The application wants to listen to specific events that where the application is interested in. Okay, and therefore it uses the so-called ISE manager to start registration. Once it is registered, it is possible for the application of the session user B to handle events. What's happening next is that the same application in the user session A raises an event, so it fires an event. It fires especially the event where session user B has a valid registration running. Okay, what's happening next? The event is raised in the session of user A, and now the data that the event was raised is the event data is transferred to the so-called event queue. We'll see later on in more details what's behind that in the user session of user B, so-called shared buffer. Now it is there, and there's a mechanism what was initiated during registration, that this event could be detected by the application X of session user B. Once it is detected that an event was received where the application is interested in, then the application gets the event data and type of a callback from the ISE manager, and the application then can process the data that was shipped, or let's say was a part of the event. Sorry, okay, so these are the basic steps. You have once the registration. If you want to receive events, you have applications. Could be the same application, could be also a different application that triggers the events that we are interested in, and also the automatic detection that an event you registered for was raised and then could be processed by you. Okay, I want to go a little bit more into details concerning the registration procedure and also the way how raising and receiving the events are executed by the system. Okay, here the situation gets a little bit more complex because now we do have two application server, but this is not a problem for intersession eventing. We have one application, the application named X, which is started by the user running in the session of the user. And this application wants to work or handle intersession events. And first of all, it starts the registration, and also it hands over, let's say, some of the identifiers that characterize the events the application is interested in. This could be an event class and the event key. Don't matter about this in technical details. I won't to go too much into it. Okay, what's happening then? And then it is important that anywhere in the system, let's say in a very good place in the system, the registration is stored. And this means, if you have a look at the picture, the information that you have a valid registration, that you want to listen to this event, is stored a layer down below the application server. Otherwise, it would not be able to share or react on events that are raised in another session in another application server environment. And therefore, this registration is written into a database table. And because it is a database table, you can also access it from other work role areas, from other application servers. And now, what's happening then? So I did register. And now, after I did register, I want to listen. Is the event when I'm interested in, has it occurred or has it not occurred? And here starts the more tricky part of the Intersession eventing. What's happening here is that after the registration, an RFC function call is executed, and this function call is an asynchronous RFC function call. This means that we have another role area in the application server that belongs to the session of user B, and this function module is so let's express here, it is the listener. It listens permanently, has an event raised, is an event written into our Intersession event queue. Do I have to react on it? And here let's see on the left side, ISE service. This term ISE service is not related to a SOA service. So it's just let's say a service or a functionality by the Intersession event framework. So the function module is started, and it permanently checks the queue. Permanently means that it checks the queue and has an event been written into it or not. Then it waits 1 second, and then it checks it again. And the fact that we need this event listener and that it is implemented in that way is also the fact that you will see let's say that the workload is consumed by this function module, but it's not permanently consumed. There is also, let's say, a kind of tricky mechanism which reduces the time the function module, this ISE service, consumes the resources. And we did really improve this time and the consumption of the resources significantly with the. Okay. And what does the ISE service check? It checks the so-called ISE event queue. And what is this event queue? This event queue is it's simple part of the so-called shared buffer memory of the application server. And once an event is raised and written into this event queue, then the function module will get it, will detect it, and then will react on the event. Okay, so one explanation why you see this RFC function module that's related to this ISE framework is because this is the event listener. Okay, now we know how to listen to ISE events and see a little bit more details what happens if an event is raised. Now you see on the left side, on the right side, another application server with a different user session. It's the same application, and this application wants to raise an event. Therefore, it calls a method of the ISE manager. And what does the ISE manager do? The ISE manager first will then check when the event is raised. Has anybody registered for receiving this event? If nobody cares for this event, if nobody is interested in this event, and you have no registration database table entry for this event, then nothing will happen. But in our case, we have the application that is running in user session B, which created a registration we saw before. And now the ISE event listener was detected, and because the registration database table also contained the information that the listener, the event receiver, is located on a different application server, it is possible for the system, for the ISE framework, to transfer, to publish the event to the ISE event queue of an application that's running in session of user B. And we see an RFC call. This RFC call is a synchronous RFC call. It's just publishing, transferring the data from the session of user A, the event data, into the ISE event queue. What does now happen? If the ISE service, this RFC function module, is up and running, it will detect the ISE event. It will detect, okay, there's something, an event was raised where I'm interested in, and the next thing that happens is it stops from processing, so it does not continue to check the event queue, but it returns the data, as it returns to the parent process. The process is here the application role area 1, where that was the parent, that was the process that raises the RFC function call. The information that an event was detected is also processed by the ISE manager, and the ISE manager now triggers a process before output of the application. You can see it later on. If I do a short demo, you get a refresh of the UI, and during refreshing the UI, the application will then start to distribute the ISE event. What happens with the event data is strongly dependent on how it's implemented for the application. What are the consequences? Could be that a field value is transferred, a field value is cleared, that other processes are started. And after the distribution has started, then the events are then distributed to those event handlers that are registered for it. So if you're a little bit familiar how event processing works in general, this architecture should be familiar to you. Okay, now it's time for the demo. I will just show you some things. Hope you can see 2 cockpits. Unfortunately, the main system where I do have the demo data for this session broke down today. It was really not a good April hoax. Therefore, I set up a really small, tiny example where you encounter manufacturing data access and intersession eventing in SAP applications. We do have 2 cockpits. One cockpit and another cockpit. And what you see here, these are 2 sessions of my user. So I logged into the same application server, but we have different sessions. So this cockpit, it gets the level for the tank. So I think I will just add the value and then publish it using the broadcast technique, the MDA. And what I expect that the second cockpit will then get the field value of this input field in this output field, and vice versa. So just publish it. Let's see, perhaps here the success message that the data point was accessed, the MDA data point was accessed, and what immediately happened is that here the output field was filled with the value that I transferred. So this was in the session eventing quite quick and fast. And if I do it vice versa, then I expect also that it appears here. You might have seen that it does not directly appear, so it took about 1 second. And this is also due to the fact how the RFC function module that listens to the event queue is set up. In substandard, The function module waits up to 1 second before it checks the event queue again. The fact that we have this waiting reduces the consumption of the work processes and of the system resources dramatically. It also prevents that the system might be in the opinion that this function module, this listener that is running in, let's say, a nearly endless loop, is detected as an endless loop and then finished after time. So here we have this wait statement. It waits a second, then it checks again. If nothing is found, then it will continue with checking every second. Now might be a question, what happens if I finish the application, or if I finished with the application, if I stop processing? And in this case, the IC architecture has one trick. The RFC function module checks about every 2 minutes if the parent process, the application.
Uwe?
Yes.
So you're still doing something on the screen? Ah, okay.
No,
I thought maybe it was frozen.
I'm just explaining that the parent application is still alive, and if it does not get the information that it's alive, then the RFC function module stops processing. What I missed in the slides is after the events were distributed, then the RFC function module is started again to continue listening. So you have say a scenario, the RFC function module is started after registration, event is processed, the RFC function module is stopped, the event is distributed, and then the RFC function module is started again. This is necessary because you want also to continue listening to the events. Could be that you have a regular event like an OPC data point that transfers values continuously, and you want also to listen and to react on those values. So from a demo perspective, this was quite very basic stuff. You can also define the manufacturing data access part in execution steps in browser-based, or used for browser-based PR sheet. Perhaps we can show this in the next session when the system is up and running again. So one thing that I want to mention, I just switched to C80. Don't want to go too much into details here. If you care for intersession eventing, then might be worth to have a look at this package where complete source coding is located. What we also do have here is some sample programs that show you the event queue, where you can also check the registration, and also where you can trace the events. So this means you get more detailed tracing of what's intersession eventing doing, the single steps. This is normally tracing is switched off in SAP standard, but you can use a setGet parameter to also trace it. This is quite helpful if you encounter problems. Okay, and what we also do have here, if you want to do some testing, there are at least 2 test reports. This is the lower one, is the newest one, that allow you to test a couple of functions that are shipped with the intersession eventing. Okay, what I just want to briefly to do is to have a look at the registration. What you see here is this is the representation in the ISE environment for the 2 cockpit sessions that I do have. I do have 2 user sessions IDs. I do have also technical data that you won't see again, that you won't see in here. This might be a little bit more familiar to those of you who work with MDA, because this is the naming of the broadcast event. Here, this T44FS is the local, or it's the variable that is where we transfer the value. and also some additional say information here. These sessions are valid. Now I try to do some dirty stuff. What you really should not do. I will stop the session. Okay, and you see what's happening here. I closed the sub GUI, which is something that you should not do that often. And this means that this session now gets invalid. This means we have a database entry on a database table where the registration is already in there, but there's no application or no user session that is valid in the live. But don't matter. The ISE framework has a, let's say, automatic repair mechanism. Yes?
Just to clarify, so it would certainly be okay to close a cockpit, but what you did was really to kill the sub GUI window.
Yes, sir.
So if you're in the cockpit, just for clarification, if you're in the cockpit and choose the F3 or the green button, the green arrow here, or the yellow arrow, that should clean up all these things, correct?
Yes, okay.
So,
this is what I just did.
People think, oh, I never have to close the cockpit. That's not the case. It's just how you close it.
Yes, I just closed the sub GUI. So you see, I just stopped the cockpit, and if I refresh it again, you see the session of the second cockpit was, let's say, finished properly, and also this session will then, or this registration entry will then be cleaned up if I call the first cockpit again. I have this automatic reparation, or let's say repairing mechanism that works pretty well. And yeah, these are some tools where you can detect and find more information about the intersession eventing. Okay, so to continue with the slides, just a brief demo. I want to give you some additional information. So the source coding is located in this package, CMX ISE. Here are the links to the relevant SAP notes that we prepared. So I would recommend at least to implement all of them. The last note that's here listed the cleanup of shared buffer. For PBPI PMA applications, it's not necessary to execute continuous cleanup of the shared buffer, but we have, as I mentioned before, some applications outside the PBPI PMA area that need to have such a cleanup report, and we improved this also. Okay, and of course, concerning manufacturing data access, we have a couple of information available in the SAP library. So it's not that new, the MDA stuff, but it really got improved quite well. So I just want to bring some additional miscellaneous information. One is perhaps yeah, sure.
That was me. I just briefly checked my own system, but it's not in there yet. So I assume it comes with any enhancement package.
The corrections. These notes.
Yeah. No, the package, for example, the CNX.
Yep. If your system, so what is necessary is that your system has the software component EA-APPL. So it could be that you are on a SAP APPL system where you don't have browser-based PI sheets and process messages and things like that. If you work on a system,
is that the case, Alexander? I thought you were working heavily with browser-based PI sheets.
Yeah, sure, I am.
Strange, then.
Okay, maybe our system is a bit outdated, so
me, I have it.
On our side.
Yeah, I just checked in our system, and we have it, this package.
Okay.
so it's so if you don't.
Yeah.
CMX ISE, don't I think? Yeah. So this should be the case. Otherwise, you would be a little bit nervous if you don't get this text. Everything is running fine. So no, normally
Yeah,
it's
maybe I'm using a wrong transaction. Maybe I will not put that in. So yeah, I will check it out. I asked on my developers. I think. Sorry for interruption.
Yeah, so that should be fine. So let's say for those who are working with execution steps, you will surely have this source coding, because it's also in there and it's also used. Otherwise, I think you might have some problems with MDA and also with using the SAP ODA and stuff. Yeah. Okay. So I would just do the miscellaneous stuff again and be ready for additional questions, if it's okay. Okay. There's one topic, if you might have looked at the CeBIT German fair, there was one topic called Industry 4.0, and this is a term that's sometimes not that known outside of Europe, outside of Germany, and also the consequences and the basic concepts, especially for, let's say, for chemical industry or for pharmaceutical industry, are not that known. And what I did, I had a lecture with students, and the outcome of this lecture was also to describe some of the basics behind, let's say, the idea what is a consequence for Industry 4.0 in ERP systems. And this is a short lecture. You might have a look at it. It also explains some of the, let's say, basic concepts like cyber-physical systems, Internet of Things, and Internet of Service, what's all about. But let's say on a level where it's also digestible for folks who are not that deep into IT. So one topic that I would also want to raise is we had some complaints, or let's say some feedback that some PIC database tables did have a dramatically increase in size. And let's say the most prominent candidate is the POC value table. This is the table where you store any short value that is used, meaning in PIC buttons or, let's say, internal values, parameter values, and things like that. And there's one SAP node which was shipped, I think in August last year. It's named Performance Improvement with PIC, which the title is not that correct. Here the colleagues fixed an error. This error was, I think, in the coding since a couple of years. The error is, let's say, the error cause is that when you send the control recipes, when you send multiple control recipes automatically, then the buffer, some of the buffer tables that contain data that will later on be written to the POCDB value table are not cleared properly. This means that if you send process, let's say the control recipe of PIC1, everything is fine. If you send control recipe of the PIC2 in the same, let's say, in the same session, then you get some of the values of PIC1 because it's all already in the buffer tables, which makes no sense, which are never loaded when you in the PIC2. But these values will be stored as values in the POCDB table, the POCDB value table. And the more control recipes you send within, let's say, automatically within one session, the more redundant entries you will get. Yeah. So I think this is quite an important correction. So I also thought it might be worth to have a look at it, because we have more and more questions that ask our tables are getting fuller and fuller, and what can we do? Of course, delete the data that we don't need and archive the PI sheets, or use the electronic batch records for archiving the PI sheet data, and then remove the archived database table entries from your system. So that is something that I want to tell you. And now if you have questions, then it would be nice to answer them.
Yeah, thanks Uwe again for a nice deep dive in, or not so deep in this time, dive into some more technical stuff. So just to wrap up, it's an old technique, but there have been notes to improve performance and reliability, which is good, always good. And I think we opened up to any other questions, not only questions to your demo and presentation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's anything. Okay. Nobody has any pressing issue or question, then we could also make it shorter this time. Last chance.
Yeah, I have one question. I already asked, I think, a few, maybe years ago. We have in our system now plenty of master recipe with XStep, and our user wants to know if there is a possible way to do a mass change of destination, for example, in master recipe.
So you want to give some or many of your XSteps another control recipe destination?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you know if some people build some Z program to do this?
I'm not aware. Uwe, do you know somebody?
No, the only thing that I know is that there have been some ideas and let's say some consultant approaches to transfer mass data, let's say XSteps of master recipes and routings, but in exchange, let's say of control recipes destinations, I never heard of today. Yeah, so the standard doesn't provide information here. Is it just the control recipe destinations, or are you thinking about, let's say, exchanging of specific standard XStep references against other standard XSteps?
Yeah, well, it could be this, or inserting, for example, multiple phases with related XStep reference.
Yeah. So sure, if something has to be implemented in that way, I will say one idea then would be to say just at least the database table content. If you want to exchange, I think have to think about where the control recipe destination is located. I think this is also the XStep data in the XStep table. So this might be possible, but yeah, I don't think so. We don't have anything here. Also, and I think there are also no plans to do this. So it might be an idea for consulting to do so. Yeah.
Yeah, we get an offer 3 years ago, but it was quite expensive.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I see somebody, Manoj from India, typing something. I didn't quite get it, what he is asking.
I think you also dropped off.
Work instruction checkbox. I have tried with HTML after complete checkbox data not saved in SAP. Sorry, Manoj, you have to clarify it a little bit further for us. I don't really get it. I think the phone your phone is not working, so that's why you type. But or Uwe, can you think of something?
No, I don't.
There.
Instruction checkbox.
Just
I don't know
one point about this your presentation on MDA. Is it because us we use the MDA for OPC connection, also the MDA for inside the same PI sheet, but is it used often? The overway that you present?
Sorry, didn't get you completely. This MDA part, also the Intersession event is the basis for the complete MDA framework that you're using, and this is also what you're using at least across if you exchange those values between two PI sheets, or if you exchange values between the cockpit and PI sheets, what might also be used here. There's also kind of internal eventing in the PI sheet, but I think this part is not directly related to the ISE stuff. So if you have those events like document generated or similar internal and external events, if you talk about this. Did I get you?
Yeah, it's okay. Thanks.
Okay. Alexandra, something from you?
Nope, not at the moment.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Well, then let's not extend it too much further. Then let's come to an end for this session, and thanks a lot for your participation. And who's a new guest, but I think we close up anyway now. Good. Have a nice time until next time in 2 months, and wish you all the best. Till then, bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Nice eating.
Yarın mono